Hello all, I'm Aki or Cyan or Hokoiluk or whatever you want to call me, and I will be doing this simulation gameplay thing in English. I have one available in Finnish, but this seems to be better, or rather it was rather requested that I do this in English as well. So here is the model. I will be playing for some time, but not till the complete end of the scenario, which would be basically until we get a low unemployment and good numbers overall.
How do you expect people to spend money?
I will be playing in the direction of the right answer until it looks good. Then I will be stopping, so we're talking about perhaps 9 months. So this will be 2 hours or so.
You're
these are all made partially private and partially government owned to make sure that the sector is actually safe and made in a humane way. Anything relating to intoxicants or things that require a butchery to be involved will be partially national, because we don't want certain practices of inappropriately not stunning the animals before you butcher them, or certain things like improperly making alcohol, to cause blindness and other things to occur. We won't be doing the subsidy thing for food yet, but that will be coming next. As soon as the economy looks a little better, but not yet. These are the much wanted special forces, just in case. Then the Space Administration that one of those parties mentioned. We actually already have a national service, but I would reduce it to 3 months. This doesn't actually mean forbid, but this is the only way to get the number of immigrants into this country into the right range. So we will be doing this, and we will be doing this. For those who have jobs and no criminal record, and those who don't have jobs and a vast criminal record. This doesn't need to be mandatory because this is basically covering the same thing, and this is non-negotiable. High Court. No. Because we're gonna need those little workers. And it isn't the government's business to oversee who owns a gun and who doesn't own a gun. It's, the other way around. This once again is one of those things where I'm using the simulator rather crudely, but I would be putting my guys across the planet to start or try to get any technology that they can, just because they wouldn't all be in one state. That will be buying from Japan. One satellite, thank you. That's actually too high. No financial and economic squad because we don't have corruption in this country. I'm gonna make the AI thing, which means we're gonna need a lot of security cameras. The Star Trek level of let's talk to the AI and the AI provides what you need. I know I'm an Axis guy. And most traffic accidents happen in urban cities, not on motorways. And most cars can't actually go 250. No. In the government's business how lost you are when you're driving. It's your business to maintain safety while driving, regardless of how sloshed you happen to be. Actually, I would upgrade the airport in the capital to an intense traffic airport and build a medium traffic airport in the north, but you know, that's neither here nor there. It seems to be about the size of it. Only one subsidy, not multiple subsidies, for obvious bookkeeping reasons. And no, we don't want you to, you know, have a preference as to whether or not you rent or purchase. This is non-negotiable. It's better than being in a home, you know, a shelter, if you will. Now, this caused some amount of debate in me, but I can't force religions to accept something that they don't want to accept if it's not like, you know, kill everyone level of weirdness. So government is forced to allow you to marry regardless of who you are, as long as you're a consenting adult, but we can't force religions to do it for you. So it's neither of these because the government considers it a marriage, but for the sake of showing that it's not like marriage and that you can't force a church to do it, we are with civil union. Now, this caused a lot of debate, and while I support abortion in this case, or in this higher bracket here, as far as I'm concerned, abortion is only legal as long as the child doesn't have the ability to live outside the womb yet. Once it is able to live outside the womb, you cannot abort it. You are forced to give birth and give it up for adoption. So it's not really this one and it's not really this one, but once again, for the sake of clarity, I will keep it here. This is an interesting one, because personally I believe you would be better off not using condoms, but having protection in that you don't sleep around and that you make sure that your significant other has been tested for STDs before you do it. But if you can't do it and you are inclined to have one night stands, then I would say promote. But for the state's opinion on what you should do, don't have one night stands. It ain't worth it. Just, you know, it ain't worth it. So I'll put it at tolerate but discourage. And this is a good one, because I would put this, but not as a single child policy. I would put this as a single family policy, meaning that cheating is always punished by the state, and cheating and several similar activities are considered criminal breaks. In that, for example, if you drug somebody to have sex with them, you are breaking the law. If you are in a relationship with someone while having a second family that you don't tell the first person about, you are breaking the law. So this isn't a single child policy, but rather a single family policy. But I'm not absolutely sure that this model can model what I mean. But for the sake of, let's say, accuracy here, I will be putting a single child policy on, because this is kind of like telling everybody in the official sense that if you cheat on your spouse, the government's gonna punish you. So I'm gonna put this one on, and surprise, it's very opposed. And there is only one form of subsidy from the government, and it ain't family allowance. Here are the vital statistics. This one needs to be fully paid immediately. 49%, 1% below half. and 3 months. Then you drop back to Social Security. This we will adjust later, but not at this time. There is no minimum wage, and this is something that I would say the system bugs out in a bad way, because if you put it as high as this, it's going to cost you this amount, which is absolutely ludicrous. It's just bollocks. It would cost you 2 zeros into that to put it at this amount, but I suppose what this means is more along the lines of what the person is expended upon by the state instead of what the person gets from the state. Every person costs the state a certain amount of money. So what we're talking about here is probably not everybody getting 2.5 grand a month, but the state putting significantly more effort into it. So let's just say that we are putting it high enough to solve the poverty problem. Just put it like that. And if we run out of money, I'm gonna increase the value added tax because I'm a dictator like that. And one of the ways to solve the unemployment problem, we need to get to the higher end of the scale towards the better off countries, away from the jungle, if you will. Because we have a couple of workers remaining, we can do this. Though then we will be out of workers until everybody returns from their job. And this absolutely needs to be the same for both genders. It is beyond belief nuts that the one with the shorter lifespan works longer, and I will actually reduce it by 1 year for both. Ooh, the government opposes me. No minimum retirement pension. Private retirement schemes are fully tax deductible. Same for companies. Know this because know this. And there should be a fifth option here that specifies, domestic production at the highest levels. And national youth movement is generally considered Axis, so I'll keep it at a low level. But we're talking about stuff like funding the Boy Scouts. And we are out of workers, so we can't build anything yet. And these are good. These are also non-negotiable. I realize that most people will hate my guts for that, but they are still non-negotiable. I believe this is at the current number of research facilities capped at somewhere along the lines of 45,000, but we'll see. Then this is the interesting one. Nuclear fusion. We have holographic television technology. Yes, you can have it. And patent all of these military technologies for sale, while giving the patents and publishing it for consumption for civilian technologies. There we go. Children have better things to do than be at school, such as learning about life in general, which I guarantee you're not going to learn at school. These can't be changed during election campaign. If they could be, I would be reducing my wage, which I cannot. And I can almost guarantee you a lot of organizations are going to throw us out. There's going to be no developmental aid to countries that have WMDs. Deal with it. Compensate for that, we're gonna find a good country with a good system to give more to. Communist, authoritarian communist. Turkey is not my favorite at the moment. I suppose I could, but Turkey hasn't been particularly nice to anyone. So perhaps Tanzania. Presidential communist. Democratic Republic of Congo, presidential socialist. How socialist? Well, let's assume that this one's good, but I have no idea if it is. There we go, now we're at the UN mandated minimum. This I believe in, because if you have a sect, you basically have a claim to immortality in the body. In that sect is formed around the idea of having a living leader with some kind of supernatural abilities. And that very claim is something that the state should study. Not necessarily to disprove it, but rather to see if there's any truth to the claim. If somebody claims they have weird supernatural powers, your first thought shouldn't be, that's impossible, but rather, what technology do they have that I don't have that makes it appear like they have that? Like, what are they doing that makes it so supernatural to them? Is it a technique or technology we've seen somebody else have? Or is it just mumbo jumbo? Like claiming that meditation helps blood pressure was claimed for 20 years before science accepted it. So just to keep our science up to date and several similar things up to date, we need to monitor them. Because, you know, you never know what they actually have. Perhaps this should be called Take Them Seriously. In theory, this one, in theory, in that the government should always ask the leading religion, which is also actually elected. The posts of the religions are elected to in this country. So there's a church election and so on. They should ask the leader of the largest religions if it's okay, but they shouldn't be tied to it. They should ask them, they should debate with the religions, they should debate with the morals, they should have public debates on laws with priests on one side and atheists on one side and the government in the middle, trying to get both sides to talk and such. Towards that end, I believe in this, but the final power with regard to government is in the hands of government, not religion. I especially don't like special status and reference in Constitution, but for the sake of this particular thing. I believe it is more along the lines of moving towards secular government than it is towards state functioning. But be aware that I do believe that government has a place in state functioning. Religion has a place in state functioning, sorry. But for the sake of this one, I will go with, in the sake of clarity, religions, because they don't have the power to veto laws, they just have the power to say their opinion. And this is one of those things I won't negotiate on, and it's basically the only limit that I can think of that I would impose that is currently not imposed. Well, there are two. Is that you can't destroy the owners or the employer's property while doing this directly. So you can't like destroy machines without being harmed by the government. The second thing is that you can't harm people who break your strike to go to work. This is the two things that I would keep here. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go with limited and monitored. This is gonna be fully recognized because I'm not gonna wanna have a party with them. And this is gonna be a free multi-party system. So that's essentially all the reforms and things that I wanna do. For now, we'll see what happens. We'll get a huge amount of comments. All of these are worthless according to them, but I think we should do it anyway. I doubt it. I know you're gonna say that, but I really doubt it. Having it be at a place where it's safe, you have guards, you have disease checks, you have credit checks. People who are bad to you are banned from it, and you keep a database of who is actually bad and so on and so forth, is much better than just randomly doing it. Yes, I will purchase that one. Why?
Despite all the consideration I have for you...
Okay. Bye. No. You're free to do a sit-in for like 20 days or so until the UN says something, or you guys actually start throwing rocks at the police officers. Then I'll send the police and the military at the same time. You can pick for yourself in the field which one you'd rather encounter, or if you'd be smart enough. No, I won't resign.
The budget.
If you're gonna be smart enough to actually, avoid both and clear out your thing on your own. Well, that was not unexpected. Yeah, I know you're gonna demonstrate, and I really couldn't care less. And you won't either when you see the numbers. Yes, I actually understand that the police are undermanned, but you have a lot of funding. This is because the people on the street need fewer police officers with better stuff, rather than a large number of police officers with poor levels of stuff. A sit-in starts to clear out. Yeah, they were there for around 10 days. We're gonna see a massive strike in the next 5 days. We're soon gonna have the first month's data. Click. Yes, much antisocial.
Although
Telling people not to cheat on their spouses and not to have short-term relationships while, like, what's the rough number? Doubling, almost tripling the social benefits. Yeah. 100% support. And I'm like 5 days away from being murdered again. These are still quite small.
The decree takes. Our great director won the prize for.
That's the result of actually paying these guys to do their art. Numbers for first month are gonna be bad. Ooh, they're actually a lot better than I thought. These are still quite bad. There were a few things that I needed to check, but I can't for the life of me remember what.
The pack.
Oh, there we go. See what these are doing. That's a good direction. That's a very good direction. Yeah, we're going in the right direction. This is very promising.
Do you wish to?
Provocation is not enough. They have to be literally throwing Molotov cocktails at you. Growth is actually quite good.
Regulate the.
Surprised that the EU didn't throw me out and the ICC didn't throw me out. Usually they do. Yes, that I understand.
We are in a. We are in a dead end. The country.
Slight.
Our fellow country.
funeral was.
Sure. Like one day of not rioting and popular pillaging, and the guy's like, yeah, let's lift it. No. No, 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 no. At least long enough for everybody to do a couple of days of relaxation, seeing your friends and shopping before we lift it. Honestly, this isn't the EU's business. And they disagree with me. Which comes as a little surprise. Now we can lift the martial law, but we'll still keep the special condition. We'll see if the situation spirals out of control immediately. Yes, I will attend. There's actually very little movement left to do. Suppose we could move the satellite. It's in Sweden because it's outside the territory. There we go. First, notice that there's too many people somewhere. It's gonna be 50,000, probably less than that. And, oh, to nobody's great surprise, strike. Because I reduced the number of government officials are gonna strike. Yes.
I'm going to.
There we go. Still not enough to make a significant dent in the number of... Ooh, it was actually. So there it is. Our debt is essentially not completely paid off, but we're pretty damn close. We are pretty darn close. And once again, the deficit numbers are completely bonkers. They don't have anything to do with reality. And we are at AAA for everything. We could start to reduce the taxation at this point, but we'll wait a while longer. Another batch of hospitals, then social centers, then maternity hospitals, and then we run out of manpower. Proletarian Confederate. It's calm enough, so I'll lift the state of emergency. Pakistan and India went to war.
Here is our growth for.
This is almost clear actually, so I'll wait until the next election, adjust the final conditions, which are the election bar, which I cannot change at this moment. South Korea and North Korea went to war. This gives us an idea of which hotspots are gonna boil over if we suddenly do this. South Korea and North Korea will have a show off if we prove that fascism's economic model in theory works. Iraq and Syria? Well, that I don't suspect. That I don't doubt. We can do one last bit of reform pretty soon. But not yet. At 100% support rating? Sure. I believe you. Because we're a minor party. What if the opposition got power?
You are.
every president gets 2 different parliaments, and every president gets 2 years but unlimited re-elections, and the voting age is as low as it can be. I would probably put it at the current understanding at 14, but 15 seems to be the lowest that this can do. These are all right. And then the piece de resistance. Wonder why it's not this. They probably think that our system of having election districts instead of like actually we don't even have election districts. It's really not this one, so I'll put it at here. This is the piece de resistance. So if minimum social security is 2,500 and the average wage is around 2,000 to 2,500, we can assume that everybody gets the 2,500 plus their wage roughly, this citizen wage thing. So this could be perhaps 3 times the average to 4 times the average, so let's go at 8,000. Seems about right. Actually, this should be what's the word? Where you have like a list of top candidates, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and so on. That's how I believe that should be done. Because we move towards the democratic and short power end of the scale, the traditional longevity power ends of the scale started to dislike us, while the democratic West started to like us. Though due to our actions, the Europeans are kind of throwing us out of their economic bloc because we are kind of sort of, well, not being all European about it. I would connect Vaasa with Rovaniemi, but you can't go over these little sea that should be in between there if you do it with this engine, so that can't be done. It's really annoying too. And this simulator also misses a large city here. I think I'll do to the next debt repayment, and then I will quit Poland and Belarus, Georgia and Armenia. Now the unemployment rate seems low enough. So as you can see, this kind of model or prediction or whatever you want to call it will solve several issues. I wonder why this is 50% because I put it at 75%. And I wonder why this is at such a high deficit even though we get like 10 billion at the end of the 3-month period. Wonder what it's trying to tell me. So anyway, we will do this because unemployment is still a bit too high and this is the main way to reduce it. We will be going to a 4-week work week. This will radically increase unemployment for a short while decreasing GDP per capita. Radically. simulation threw me out, if I could only understand why. Probably because I went to the short
Good
work
morning.
week. UK is, what's the word? Showing us support.
I will find.
France is offering us some technology. Let's see if
For
it's
the
a serious offer. No thank you, I really don't care.
I'll give you.
Because we also reduced the company tax, we're seeing a decrease in unemployment, even though usually going from a 5-day to 4-day will actually increase unemployment, because most of the people who are laid off because of it are the people who hire a lot of other people, while the part-time workers will not be affected by it. So the end result will be that unemployment actually goes up, not down. That is what this model is usually telling me. But because we also grammatically reduced the company tax, we're actually seeing a decrease in unemployment. However, we are seeing a rather sharp drop in the GDP per capita, which is to be expected in going to a shorter work week.
The referendum?
You know damn well that you ain't sanctioning me. Not when I'm doing this good with the economy.
We are in a dead end. The country's on the edge of the abyss, and in everyone's eyes,
Now
you are
the
responsible.
Now the United Nations is saying us to control the sit-in protests, so we will be doing police intervention, military intervention, and we will not be appearing on the television to explain this. Okay.
The funeral?
Yes, I will. As you can see, these guys kinda didn't like me leaving. But what can you do? When they're sanctioning me for having a budget deficit while actually paying back my debts at a rate of like 50 billion a month or some weird number like that. Then using this newfound vast number of wealth, or vast amount of wealth, to do some very much needed construction work across the country. Now the healthcare is done. We have the most hospital beds per capita, but considering how bad the situation is gonna get very soon with the global warming thing, it's probably a good idea. Sports. More sports. Not a very new technology, but one of those technologies that needs to be published. So France gave everybody the ability to build jumbo jets. Enjoy.
The movement. The sit-in begins.
So we're almost at the second debt repayment, and we'll see how this goes. I hope we have been able to leave the euro by then, so I can adjust the Venezuela and France of war, so we can adjust the interest rate for the currency. Seems like it won't be done in time. Still too many people in the labs. And we're gonna see another massive protest wave. If everything looks good. Ooh, we got debt. Ooh, that's because our economy is so much smaller now with the decreased work week length. We could actually stand to increase the company tax now that unemployment is 2%, but we'll retain it there. GDP is also pretty stagnant. So I will be playing until the next debt repayment. Things have to, there we go. Things have to look good before I can actually quit this. So GDP per capita needs to be going up. This is basically because we dropped the work week, so this increase would put us about here. if we, perhaps here, so somewhere around here, if we didn't do the work week thing. This doesn't actually mean 20%, it means highest possible that we can make it, and because our economy was lagging, we will be doing this. And we're gonna see huge protests because of it.
The bill.
Marginal increase in unemployment. Now that it's been 6 months, we can actually do this one again. We reduced the number of illegal immigrants in half, but we could stand to do a little bit more. Giving the best one's nationality and throwing the rest out. Ooh, the München competition. Consider this the one where they throw the people off the boat so you have to swim ashore. That type of competition. Now our space center and space program is complete. Countries that used to hate us are slowly adapting back to not hating us.
Here is our growth.
So that seems to be about all. I think I could play until the public debt and such becomes better, but I'm not sure that it's actually needed. You can clearly see that the unemployment rate goes down to about where it should be, while GDP per capita increases pretty sharply, so sharply in fact that we can go to a 4-day work week without completely blowing up the economy. And the various indicators are a little bit better than they were for the situation before, such as these things. This is evidently stuck, this isn't, you know, and this is stuck. Some of these indicators are stuck. I remember one thing that we overlooked, or something that we were supposed to do. This. These will be re-education, not the holding centers. No, re-education center sounds bad, but it's better than a prison. Norway has re-education centers as its prisons. So I think we are close to being done here.
Good morning. Sure.
I will see at start of next month if we're ready to do this.
Do you wish the participant?
There's one more reform I could do, but that would require the economic situation to be a little bit better than it is. And that would be to subsidize electricity, vegetable food, and water. That is the cheapest way to respond to the crisis.
The sit-in.
The decree takes
6,000.
Do you wish to send in the army to?
That was the last moment value added tax increase. Perhaps this is enough, I feel. There are some more interesting things that we could observe, but perhaps keeping this short is a reward in its own right. We are not prepared for Corona. Perhaps this is a good place to end this. There are still some things to do, such as building all of these leftover things. This is peanuts compared to how much we actually have at the moment. I feel tempted to play this until I have the economy fully under control, but I believe this is long enough. You get an idea of what happens. This is essentially what happens. crime rate will be dropped to 3 cases out of 100, but then it will stabilize. So yeah, that seems to be about it. If anybody has any further interesting questions or something they want to see in this, I'll show them, but that is the short version of my government model. So that is the rough outline of what I'm proposing. I would perhaps not do the 4-day work week so quickly, but the general outline is such. Perhaps increase the value-added tax by 1% and decrease the other taxes with half of the income and use the rest to these construction projects. As I indicated, it's up to you individually, but generally speaking, lowering company tax will reduce unemployment. So if you can fund it by increasing value-added tax, the increase in unemployment from value-added tax should be lesser than the decrease in unemployment from company tax, and that should in general get you to a good position. If the company tax, as I seem to believe based on the data that I've seen, if it is the one good indicator for unemployment, then we will be at a good place. So that is about the size of it. It was a pleasure.